Welcome back to the Milk and Cookies podcast. This is the only podcast that talks everything about football and has absolutely nothing to do with the fine dining item of milk and cookies. This is a very special episode today. This is episode 5 of our weekly series. This is not only just a regular episode. There's two special things about today. Number one is we are joined today by Mr. Zac Blobner, which is absolutely fantastic. We're so happy to have you on here. And also, this is our first full month of having this podcast being produced. So we thank everybody for sticking with us, and hopefully we just keep pumping out better content for you. So let's just go right into this. Mr. Blobner, why don't you tell us what you do for a living? You know, this is a pretty special moment for us, so we'd like to know more about you.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me in, guys. Appreciative to kind of be on with you this morning and chit-chatting about some sports. So my main gig is over at 95.3 WDAE in Tampa Bay. It's sports radio with iHeart Radio, again, locally here in the area. We reach out to everywhere from St. Petersburg, Sarasota, touching as far as Lakeland, and then right in the heart here in Tampa, talking all kinds of sports. Obviously, we are the home of the Rays. Our radio station is. Also in our building, we have the Buccaneers radio broadcast. We have the Lightning broadcast, USF Bulls broadcast. So we are kind of just the main and really the only entity when it comes to radio for sports talk in Tampa Bay. And my role with them is Monday through Friday. I'm on 6 to 9 with the morning show. I work with Ronnie and T-Crass every day during the week. And then on weekends, on Saturdays, I host Blobner and Wise, which is my own show from 10 to noon. Again, every Saturday. And then on Sundays in football season, I'm a part of our football slate. I do some work still with WDAE that's actually syndicated in Orlando and some other markets in Florida with the Fantasy Fix. So every Sunday from 10 to 11, again, that's when we're in season. So that's kind of my main role with WDAE. I have some other endeavors that I kind of dip my toes in the water. I do some work with the Craft Beer Playbook, which is a craft beer podcast here in Tampa Bay as well. So really just a lot of sports, a little drinking, and some fun when I can get it in.
Yeah, that's awesome. For any of our Tampa viewers and in that area, go ahead and check him out on his time that he's broadcasting. I do not like Tampa sports, as many of you guys know, but Zac is a very entertaining person, and he is one of the very few Tampa radio hosts I will listen to. So let's get right into the news. So first thing up for business, probably the worst news for 31 teams with the best news for one. The Tampa Bay Bucs have managed to extend Tom Brady's contract for another 4 years, very, very cheap. He's doing something what he did with the Patriots, essentially starting his own super team down in the Bay. So, Zac, why don't you tell us a little bit more? Like, what's the implication of that 4-year contract? What does it look like for the rest of the NFL?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's nice when your wife is Giselle, right? Like, that makes life easy in a lot of different ways. Like, let's be honest. I mean, there's the personal side of it, but the financial side of it is the focus here as we kind of look at why Tom Brady's able to do that. And this is a cat who has his rings, right? He's got plenty of money. His TB12 brand is out there. So he's making a lot of money even off the football field. So he can afford in more ways than one to do this, to quote unquote extend and take less and move money around, so that his team, which is currently the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, have every option to go out there and spend money on other players so that they're in the best possible position to win another Super Bowl in 2021. The interesting thing is, though, for this, I don't think Tom Brady really had to have his arm twisted in terms of how the contract was set up. If you look a few days earlier, the Bucs were able to extend Lavonte David at the linebacker position too, and that was like magic compared to how the numbers all fell, right? This is a cat who got $20 million guaranteed, who definitely would have gotten some great offers on the open market had he hit it in Lavonte David, but his cap hit's only $3.5 million. Similarly, I knew Tom Brady was going to get an extension. I assumed that months ago. But I figured it would free up $4 or $5 million maybe for the Bucs to kind of work around with. $19 million? $19 million. That's witchcraft. That doesn't make any sense. How does that happen? And they come up with this thing, right? It's a loophole in the cap system. And it really only works this year because we know money is going to go up so high in 2022 with the new TV deal. You get more revenue bumping back in. They missed out a lot, obviously, this past year on revenue because of the pandemic. But there's this new term that I've never heard of before, voidable years. And it's both on Tom Brady's contract and it's on Lavonte's contract. I think you're going to start seeing on other guys' contracts around the league. I know Patrick Mahomes. I don't know if the Chiefs – I know they restructured. I don't know if they added voidable years. I think they just moved money around. Similarly to what the Bucs have been doing with Mike Evans the last few seasons. But this voidable years thing, it's like phantom ghost years that aren't even real. And I'll be honest, I'm not a capologist. I probably can't explain it as well as some others. But basically, you take the first part of this is you take base salary, right? So whatever they're getting paid, per season, and then you convert as much of that as you can to a signing bonus, so that doesn't count against the cap the next season. But then you add these voidable years, and you can stretch those signing bonuses out over those seasons so that you can add even more. So if your signing bonus, you can only do a max of like $8 million for a guy like Tom Brady. Well, you can do that next year into the deal too, and then in the 2 voidable years. So that's another 8, and then another 8 in those 2 seasons. So, I mean, the easy way to explain that is basically they found this loophole to where they can stretch money out, and those voidable years don't actually end up hurting this team down the road, because a lot of these guys are going to have their contracts restructured next season anyways. Like, don't be shocked if next season, Tom Brady does a different extension. I would actually be more shocked if Tom Brady – retirement obviously is always on the table for a cat that's over 40, but in terms of him continuing to play, I'd be more shocked if he didn't sign another different extension that did something similar for the Bucs next offseason. And I mean, Levante's a little different, but he could do that too. He could sign a different deal and free up even more money and get rid of those voidable years with more money in the cap and on the table. So it was brilliant. It's financial mojo and magic that we really can't comprehend that the Buccaneers front office came up with, from the GM Jason Light down. They actually have a capologist in-house. Funny, his name's Mike Greenberg, not the ESPN host, but he's fantastic at what he does. And again, I mean, now they've freed up this money. And think about this, guys. The Bucs are trying to return the Super Bowl team, right? They were able to tag Chris Godwin, re-sign Levante, and restructure Tom. And they haven't even made any other moves yet, right? Like, they haven't made any cuts. They haven't restructured any of their deals. And they're still sitting with like 15-ish million in cap space or whatever it is, right? Because they were over a few, so they're not quite at 19 mil from what Tom Brady freed up. But it's insane, because they're going to have more money on the table soon when they make more moves. So, like, we look at the 19 mil and everybody does the same thing. Oh, Shaq Barrett, they're going to go after him now and wrap him up. But they need more money to do that. And they need even more money to bring back guys like Sue, AB, Gronk, maybe not all of them, but some of them. So we're going to see more moves made, more restructurings for the Bucs. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if as we're doing this show, a guy like Ryan Jensen isn't moving money around for the Buccaneers. So it's nothing short of incredible. And the Bucs are, they got the best QB in the game as far as like forever, right? But now they have the best front office this year too, working real hard.
Yeah, I will say this, I mean, the Dolphins definitely, we do versus the Bucs this year, somewhere in our schedule. I think it's an away game for us, so yeah, I'm just going to put that as a loss right there, unfortunately. But I will say this, as much as I hate to admit it, and I hate that it's even in my own backyard. I grew up in Tampa, but I hate to see Tom Brady within an hour drive of where I live, knowing that he can throw a ball 30, 40 yards, and score another touchdown, win another Super Bowl, and I'll just sit here in college. So, but I can grumble on about Tom Brady. Let's adjust into Tom Brady's replacement in New England. Cam Newton re-signed with the Patriots, another one-year deal, I believe. Leon, as a Dolphins fan, are we really excited that Cam Newton is still a Patriot?
Yes, I'm excited. He had one of his this was like a down year for him. He went like 8 for 10. He threw for under 2,500 yards. Mm-hmm. Usually he's throwing for 3,000. And they signed him, like, that's their QB. They signed him on a base salary of $5 million. He has incentives that can make him $14 million this year. So if Cam Newton's in the back for them, I feel pretty confident versus the Patriots this year. I'm glad it's not Tom Brady.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. I'm glad we don't have to play Tom Brady twice a year now. I really do. Trust me. But having Cam Newton, run a ball, 40, 50 yards and then throw – like what, another 70 yards on 10 attempts? Oh, I'd much rather be playing Cam Newton 2 times a year than Tom Brady, that's for sure. So let's go even further. AFC still. Anthony, I'm going to give this one to you. Because of Patrick Mahomes' mega contract, 10 years, $500 million, absolutely insane. He's now occupying about $50 million of cap this year alone, give or take. I think it's a couple mil because of the contract structuring. They had to part way with 2 of their offensive line anchors, Mitchell Schwartz and Eric Fisher, both cut over the week. What does this play out for the Chiefs? Are they in trouble? Because as we remember, the Bucs, when they played them, Schwartz and Fisher were not absent. They were both injured. So will the Chiefs be taking it down here this year?
I think when you lose these 2 key offensive linemen, you're going to go into the offseason and see what do you have to look for in what's needed now. Do you try and restructure their deals to stay with the team or re-sign them on a lesser salary or do you look into off-season and free agency and you realize there's other offensive linemen that you can try and sign for maybe less money but more years, or more money but less years on a 1-year deal for the team? Because if I was Andy Reid or the Chiefs GM, I wouldn't want to be taking a down year after going back to back to Super Bowls, even though you lost this past one and then you won the other one. But I think it will be a down year for the Chiefs because you're losing Mitchell Schwartz and Eric Fisher. So you're going to have to go look into the draft or free agency to look for offensive linemen to draft. But I believe this will be a down year of the Chiefs.
When you say down year, Anthony, can you specify? Because they still do have Patrick Mahomes. So, like, is a down year for Kansas City not making the Super Bowl? Or are you talking about, like, a team that's not even going to win their division next season?
I'm thinking of a team that will make a playoff run, but not go far.
I just want to make sure we're on the same page, because the down year for the Chiefs isn't the same as like a down year for Jacksonville, right? Like, they're not. All right. I just want to make sure we're good. We're good.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. I'm sorry, but I mean, if the Bucks keep, or if the Chiefs keep applying that same level of pass protection that they did during the Super Bowl, I think they're in a lot more trouble than anything else. I say this might be a nice year for, the Chargers or even the Raiders to sneak in. But knowing Patrick Mahomes, he's still going to have Tyreek, he's still going to have Kelsey, so he's still going to be able to throw all over the field and not have to worry about who's protecting him. The guy can throw across the field 40 yards in the most accurate form. I don't even know any quarterbacks that can do it. Maybe Nathan Peterman. No, that's a joke. So just to translate into our last segment, one thing that we talked about before filming this was free agency, and how, as already mentioned by Zach, the free agency and the cap space has taken a dip this year alone. So you see a lot of these guys are going to take usually a 1 to 2 year very minor deal. Will there be evidence of super teams? Kenny Golladay, Juju on the same team. You have every major offensive line. I'm opening this to anybody. Give me your opinions on this.
Well, I actually, before we go that far, because my best friend's a Dolphins fan, so I'm very interested to hear from you guys about who you would rather have. Because no, the Dolphins are not getting Juju and Golladay. That's not how the world works. But you'll probably get one of those guys. Now, I know a lot of Dolphins fans probably would have rather had maybe Allen Robinson or Chris Godwin, but they're both tagged. Right. They're off the table. So Miami's going to go out and sign one of those receivers, boys. Which one should they sign?
Like I said last week, I think Kenny Golladay, he'll be a vet. He'll be the oldest receiver on the team, and he can help the young guys out, because I'm pretty sure we're going to draft a receiver at the third pick. So having Kenny and a guy like Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith and the rest of the receivers, Bowden and all them, it's going to get ugly. It's going to be nice.
Leon, would you be mad if it was Juju instead of Golladay?
Yes, because I didn't like how That's my opinion.
Okay. No, I respect it. I was just curious. Okay, fair.
Nah, I'd say the one thing about the receivers, especially with the two top ones are being Golladay and Smith. Short term, I prefer Golladay. Long term, I guess Juju. The only thing that concerns me about Juju, especially because of this last season, he gained a lot of hate because he was a very flashy character, especially when the Steelers were going 11-0 and then they got their teeth kicked in a couple times. So I'd say if we're going long term, I'd want to re-sign Juju, but he would have to drop the whole flashy crap.
The TikTok stuff is an issue for you then. You didn't like the TikTok stuff.
Yeah, I liked Juju before the start of the season. I thought he was a very relatable guy, especially during the whole AB meltdown, that he was sort of, the guy that was attacked for no reason. He's a very likable character, but it's just him and Claypool, with TikTok and then flashy and thinking that they're all that, to me, it's embarrassing, both for the Steelers during the time when they were hitting the wall, and also for the NFL, because Juju's going to go to a team, and if he doesn't perform to the level that he did his first, second, third year, he's going to be seen as a toxic character, and he's probably going to get cut. So I prefer to have Golladay on for a 1 to 2 year contract, and then we move on from him or re-sign him, and then we go on to a more concrete receiver.
So here's my thing though, and I agree that you're going to see a lot of cats take less or do a 1 or 2 year or short term or add these voidable years I was explaining to you guys. With that being said, though, there are still premier players that they're going to get treated normally. And again, I said that's kind of what's interesting, because I don't know who that'll be particularly or how many guys that will apply to. But I think when you look at Kenny Golladay, he's not going to sign a short-term deal. He's a guy who's still going to get paid premium money. Same thing with Juju. So even though, yes, in theory, there's more money next season, the cap will go up, the revenue will be better, the TV deal will be, that money will be in play. I still think there are certain premier players that are going to be treated normally this year in free agency despite the lack of dough. I think those two receivers are two of them. I think a guy like Shaq Barrett certainly will be, edge rusher out of Tampa if he hits the open market. But, I think those are very rare situations. For the most part, you're right. Like, most guys are probably going to do shorter term deals and try to maybe hit free agency or find a way they can open themselves for an easy extension or restructuring next year. But there will be some guys that are still signing 4 or 5 long-term deals. And again, I feel really good that Shaq will be one of them. I'd be shocked if, Galladay and Juju didn't get a 4-year deal as well, at least from whatever team they end up on.
Sure. There's one guy, this is probably the one reason why I'm still holding on to that super team aspect that I keep talking about. One guy that has flown really far underneath the radar that I have had no knowledge of is T.Y. Hilton. He's a free agent. He's in the market. I haven't heard anything about him. No projected team, no nothing. Doesn't really want to go back to the Colts. So that's why for him, I feel like he would sign like that 1 year, $7-8 million to go play on a team, be wide receiver number 2, and give them those extra 1 or 2 wins.
Yeah, that's a great example. I think T.Y. is a guy, I mean, you talk about like power teams and all-star squads and stuff. Like, that's a guy who could potentially see, where Juju goes or where, Galladay goes and be like, oh, I'm going to jump on that. Similarly, you have Antonio Brown out there. We all expect him to end up back here in Tampa at like a really premium discount. But if for whatever reason he doesn't, that's another guy too you could couple maybe somewhere that like would sign for like 1 year and less and be a part of a program. So we know he loves it down in Miami. So it'll be interesting to see. I do think, again, like there are a lot of players. Most players will probably do this 1 or 2 year thing and take a little bit less just to kind of get on a squad and quote unquote prove themselves for the money next year. But again, there are some guys that are still going to come home with the bag. Those elite players that are out there. So it's exciting. I think it's going to be one of the more interesting off seasons in the history of the NFL, just because it's coming off of a pandemic year.
Absolutely. I mean, if you think the 2020 offseason was something special, especially with Tom Brady moving as well as some of the other big names, I think this one would be even grander because of the current situation that we are all in. So I think we're going to translate in something that we haven't done in a bit. I feel like we forgot about it. This is time for our random stupid predictions. What we used to do is just something that it's individual to you, what most people will basically scream at you for agreeing with or going along with. Just a prediction that you have. Like one of my one was that the Saints are going to have a top 5 pick in next year's draft.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
okay.
I'm just asking, do you have one pertaining to any team, cap? I mean, I know we haven't done that in a bit. So Anthony, Leon, you guys got one? Because I kind of forgot about that.
I think my new crazy prediction is Jameis Winston to the Bears.
Wow.
Okay.
Whoa. All right, I wasn't expecting that one.
Is he backing up Russell Wilson there, or is he starting?
Hey, competition.
Oh man, yeah, that's a good one. I mean, we're always looking for like bold predictions, right? I would say that. Let's go to the AFC South. Let's talk about Jacksonville, right? They got Urban Meyer. They got Trevor Lawrence. Well, we're assuming they'll get Trevor Lawrence.
Oh, they will. They have to.
Right. I think if I were to make a bold prediction based on things as they are right now, I say that the Jags win the division. Now, you said bold and crazy. Here's the thing, though. We don't know what we're going to get out of Wentz in Indianapolis, right? Like, if he looks anything like he did last year, even with Indy having a great defense and weapons, they're not going to do much. Like, they just aren't. Houston's a mess, and we're expecting them to move on from Watson. So who knows what it'll look like, for the Texans. And then the Titans, yeah, they're still there. They got Tannehill and Derrick Henry. They got some questions on defense, too, that they really got to figure out, though. And, I think if Trevor Lawrence is what we expect him to be, and they're able to kind of bring in some more cats, some more talent, I think they can at least compete. Now, I don't necessarily expect him to make the playoffs at like 13, 14, 15 wins, but maybe 10 wins isn't enough in that division to win it next year, So if I were to get crazy and I was like, I don't expect it to happen, but if you're looking for a bold, silly prediction, that's a very easy division, I think, for one of those teams to pop up and surprise you. And why not Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer, you know?
Be a heck of a first year for him. I mean, I can't really go against that because everybody was saying the Dolphins would actually go less than 5 wins this year, and we somehow managed to squeak out 10 and barely missed the playoffs. So, yeah, I think that'll be it for today, and we'll wrap up this episode. Mr. Blobner, we want to thank you again for being on here. This was a pleasure. We hope that we can do this again very soon. Again, check him out if you're in the Tampa area. Again, one of the few Tampa radio hosts I actually decide to listen to and not forced to listen to by family members. So thank you again for watching. If you like this video, just let us know what we need to do. If you agree with us, if you disagree with us, let us know in the comments. Of course, we will be doing this as much as possible. Be on the lookout for our draft series, which will be starting around this time. We should be getting that up very, very soon. But thank you again for watching, and we will see y'all real soon.